Hello, welcome back to Math Time with Professor Prime, and I'm your host as always, Professor Prime. So, today we're going to talk about math and Batman Arkham City, and I look forward to it. Arkham City is one of my favorite games of all time, and it's one of the best games of all time from one of the greatest series in gaming. And I think that's awesome. Okay, so not only am I going to be talking about Arkham City, but to a degree, the Arkham series as a whole. And I look forward to that. So here's how this video is going to go. I'm going to talk about Batman Arkham City after giving some background on the Arkham series in general, and I'm going to talk about different elements of the game and how math is used along the way. The focus will be on combat, partially because I always find that stuff really interesting, but also because it ties together other elements of the game. And you're fighting your way through things just as much as you're exploring and doing detective work and all that good stuff. So I like that sort of stuff, and so I want to talk about that as the focal point. But I will be talking about other areas too, right? Because exploration is a big part of the game, as well as the detective work. And there's a lot of stealth involved too. So we'll talk about all that to a degree, as well as music and voice acting and all that good stuff, and so many more things. So yeah, I look forward to it, and definitely spoilers for Arkham Asylum. Sorry, Arkham City, but also Arkham Asylum. Really, the whole Arkham series in general. And if you want to go crazy, if you want to be extra careful, just assume anything Batman is up for game, any for fair game. It probably won't go like that far, but like just yeah, be extra safe because I don't want to take anything off the table either. So yeah, let's get into it. So with Batman Arkham, it's an incredible series where it's mixing a lot of different gameplay elements, right? It's like combat is a big part of it, as well as stealth, as well as exploration, right? Um, and I just like find that all like fascinating. And of course, there's some RPG elements in there to a degree, right? Um, and it goes back to Batman Arkham Asylum, and I think that's a good point to start the conversation because for me, it informs uh, how and why I perceive Arkham City the way it does. Like I didn't experience Batman Arkham City in a vacuum. I played Asylum first, and then went to City, and then Origins, and later Night. Eventually Night. We'll get to all that too. Okay, so here's the thing. So back in 2009, we were hit with Batman Arkham Asylum. Like up until that point, right? You might have a Batman game or two where it connected with someone. But I don't think it was until Arkham Asylum that things really got kicked up, right? That you got that like crazy experience of playing as Batman. And how did you really accomplish that? Well, so the big thing about like the combat is, there's a lot of rhythm to it, right? It's like playing a rhythm game in a sense, right? Like the timing is important, the rhythm and the flow is important in your combos, and it flows so well. It's got that free flow system, right? Um, and it's already like really evolved in Arkham Asylum. And then you have the idea of like stealth vision. Oh, sorry, detective mode and like stealth. Um, now with detective mode, it allows you to like see different clues and like monitor your surroundings and your opponents and all that. And with stealth, there's like different things at your disposal, right? Because you can grapple to this point and that point, hide in this vent, that vent, and all this good stuff, and like sneak around and take down your opponents while trying to not alert other people. And so it's more of a confined space in Arkham Asylum. Like there's still like plenty to explore, and all that. And then with Arkham City, you take like the stuff that worked about Asylum, you refine the combat so it's even better than it was before, and it was already great in Asylum. But you take that, you expand it, you add a bunch of new elements to it, right? New enemies, new things that you can do, add in more weapons and gadgets, and just like you take that, but then you add like a bigger environment. You allow Batman to flow, glide around that city. doing Batman things, and it ups it in a very significant way. And now, when it comes to Batman Origins and it came to Arkham Knight, because of the innovations in Arkham City, I don't think they hit as hard as that in terms of like expanding the scale and scope of a already great game. But I do think Origins was solid, and Arkham Knight had solid moments. It's not a bad game, but it's not a great game, and we'll get to that too. Arkham City is my favorite, and we're gonna talk about that, and then I'll talk about my feelings on it and the story and the characters and all that, and then the other parts of it. Okay, so when it comes to Arkham City, like I mentioned a little bit, there's the idea that it's this large city, right? It's like it's a super prison, um, and but it's a city that's being used as a super prison, and so like there's danger abound at any given moment, right? In any different corner, you have like a bunch of regular people in that city, as well as like some bosses and stuff like that, and we can get into it, right? Like so with that in mind, so as you're exploring through the city, right? Like, you have the idea of the combat, the idea of the exploration and the detective work, and the stealth and all that. Um, you know, and when it comes to the combat, we can start there and we can expand, right? The idea is you are trying to dish out damage while trying to not take it, and that's something that I say in a lot of videos is where like attack or sorry, attacking and damage as well, like as far as combat goes. Um, and so here, I think where it gets interesting is so you have that basic idea where he's like, okay, well maybe I want to strike my opponent, but and try to not get struck, right? Uh, so how does that evolve in the course of the game? So how do you go from that basic concept and expand, which is by the way something that's inherently mathematical? How do you expand from that though? So you have the idea that yes, you can do basic strikes, and you can go and kind of point your character, usually Batman, other characters if you're playing challenge modes, but we'll get to that. So you're going around mostly as Batman, like going from opponent to opponent. You're using your directional pad. You're keeping track of that. So it's like you're dishing out damage. You're striking, and not only is there math in dishing out that damage while trying to avoid taking it. There's math in the directions that you're aiming and looking at the distance between Batman and your opponents. And then not only that, but that combat can expand because right you're not only able to strike, you're able to evade, you're able to counter. And as far as the evasion goes, you can just like move out the way, you can jump. And as far as the counter goes, it depends on your situation. If you have like a regular opponent, whether they're coming at you with their fist or they're coming at you with basic weapons like a pipe or something like that, because there's different weapons, right? But if they're coming at you with like a pipe or a bat, you will typically see like the counter indicator where it's like kind of these fives like squiggly like lines. Maybe squiggly isn't the word, but they look like lightning bolts. So you got like these five lightning bolts that indicate that they're about to hit. And so when they do that, if you time it right, you can counter. And so you're doing this, you're going from opponent to opponent, countering as needed. And you're dealing with your timing, you're dealing with your combos, and you can see that you're building a combo meter. You're building it up, right? You're getting a multiplier, and this matters for your experience points. Is your if you're playing like the main game, and like your score if you're playing the challenges, right? And so you're building that up, and as you're building it up, there are more things that you can do over time. Like if you build it up to 12, right? You get like this boost in your combos, right? You're faster, your reaction time is better. And this is if you're not doing any like special combo move. So because there are certain like combo moves that you could use to like completely take down your opponent. Like but if you're not using those and you're just doing basic stuff, you can hit 12 and you can be more efficient because you're faster. You're dealing with your reaction time, so you're building things up. You just have to be careful of the types of attacks coming at you because if it is like someone hitting you with your fist or like a pipe or a bat, yes, you can do the regular counter, right? But you might see them coming to attack, and they might attack with a blade, or they may attack with a stun baton, or they might have a shield. In which case, your regular attacks won't work. Like for things like the shield and baton, like there are ways to handle that, right? One of the big ways is that you can eventually unlock an aerial attack, in which case you can use your stun and then like jump over them. And speaking of which, you can stun. Like you can use your cape to stun people, and you can do that strategically. You might not want to get too carried away so that you don't break up your combo meter. So we're already seeing like a basic idea of attacking and avoiding damage like expanded, right? Again, like it's something that's inherently mathematical, right? You're starting at 100% health and you're trying to get your opponents down to zero, and at a minimum you're trying to not get to zero while you're trying to get them to zero. And then you can evade, you can counter, and you're building up a combo. You can enhance your combos, or if you're unlocking different combo moves like through the points that you gain through experience, um, you can mix things up, right? You can do special combos and special takedown moves. You can also use gadgets. Like there's some gadgets that'll be like useful specifically outside of a combat situation, but there are several gadgets where they're useful inside of combat and outside of combat, right? And some of this might be like, okay, well, you're just doing a quick fire for your batarangs. Some of it may be like a wire claw, or like the freeze blast, or like the sonic grenades or whatever. Or wait, sorry, sonic batarang. But the idea is there's like a form, there's a functionality to it all, right? And you start to really be able to customize your combat. You're also able to resist bullets a bit better once you unlock that. Also, with one of the weapons that I didn't get to mention yet is like sharp weapons like daggers and swords. You get to a point in the game where if you spend your points on the right things, you can get to a point where you can like dodge blades, and then you upgrade again and you can do that plus a takedown. And I think that's really cool. So like you're going through the game, you're battling your opponents, you're gaining experience points, you're gaining points, like upgrade points based on those experience points, right? And then you're able to upgrade your skills. You're also able to use that to progress through the game and also get different weapons and different power-ups in addition to the ones that you're getting through your upgrade skills. And so you have the combat being used as the way to move through the game, along with the exploration and the stealth. And let's talk about those for a little bit as well. So not only is there like a crap ton of math just going on in the combat, but there's also like a lot in the exploration, for instance, because you're going through like the city or like different areas if you're in a building, and there's math and like the scale and scope of it all, but also like the speed at which you're moving as Batman, and just like how you're navigating everything. You also have a map that you can refer to and you can look at, and you can get a sense of where you're at and where you need to head. And there's math in all that, right? There's math in the location, there's math in the scale and the scope, math in the speed at which you're gliding through town, and just moving in general, math in the animations that come with all of that, math in the lighting, math in the color, math in like just bringing that experience to you that you're Batman and you're like gliding around. And I think that's awesome. And as far as the stealth is concerned, right? Like timing is key. You're also dealing with things like noise and stuff like that, right? Because like something that we don't usually talk about, like I mentioned like colors and not long ago, but like you things like colors and then light in general is something that's inherently mathematical, and something also that's also inherently mathematical is sound, right? And we don't talk about that nearly enough. We might not just think about it because we're used to dealing with it. But in any case, right, focusing on the sound, you have to be careful with how you're moving, right? You have to be careful of the sounds that you're making. So you have to pace yourself. You have to not only worry about the sound, but worry about you generating a sound, right? So there's math in the sound, but math in the speed at which you're moving, math in the environments that you're dealing with, and the way sound works. Um, but not only is this something that you're trying to be cautious about because it can spell the difference between moving hidden a level and dying. But you can use it as a weapon, right? You can use it as a distraction. You can throw guards off and sneak around. And as you level up, right? And as you move on, you can get different kinds of takedowns that you can use for like self, right? Because you can go through windows, or take people out through windows, or underground vents, or knock them through like walls if the wall is like breakable. So you could do all that sort of stuff, and I think that's pretty cool. And so it's like, and then there's so much more that you can talk about. But one of the big things I want to talk about is like, so most of the boss fights, you can take them or leave them. Mm, I know the boss fights, they're reasonable, but like I think I'm coming at this from the Mr. Freeze fight because that one is just so stellar. It makes the other ones like pale in comparison, but they're not bad. Like in fact, like the one with Ra's al Ghul or Ra's al Ghul, depending on how you want to pronounce that, um, that's pretty solid, right? I think that was cool. But the Mr. Freeze one is interesting because it's like good luck doing the same thing twice. You have to like stop him, and each time you kind of like get a hit in and try to stop him, like he adapts. And there's math in that, right? There's math in your approach, is of course, right? Because you're worried about timing, you're worried about positioning, your position, Mr. Freeze's position, and you're also worried about speed. Like, oh, can I do this and implement this in order to slow him down? And then you have to do it multiple times, and he doesn't react the same way. So you have to strategize without getting caught, right? And so I think that's pretty cool. And maybe there's a better way to explain that, but my whole thing is just like Mr. Freeze um, can adapt, and in order to take him out, you have to hit him with different strategies, and I think that's pretty cool. And it's just math all along the way, and I think that's cool. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else major that I wanted to talk about because I feel like there's no shortage of what you could talk about. Just saying that like it's a cool thing because you're going throughout the game, right? And you're dealing with combat, you're dealing with the exploration, you're dealing with the stealth, and as you're doing that, you're getting experience points, you're upgrading your equipment, whether we're talking about your bad armor, your gadgets, all that good stuff, and you're also like upgrading your abilities. And that's helping you as you take on more people, as you figure out more things. There's also like the Riddler challenges, um, and there's like 440 of those, I think. And the idea is, it's like you're uncovering mysteries. Like, oh, maybe you need to go to this location or this location based on the riddle, or maybe you need to do this thing, do that thing. Like, maybe you need to have like this item, or like hit this switch and that switch and that switch, and you got to figure out how you're gonna hit all of them. Um, there's uh, no shortage of riddles. I don't know why I was struggling with that. It's late. I don't know, but that's usually like the best time for me to record. So here we are. There's so much more that you could talk about, but my whole thing is just like whether we're talking about the combat and how intricate that can become, there's a lot of math involved. Oh, let's talk about the combat challenges. Well, actually, there's different types of challenges, right? There's like the combat map challenges and like the predator map challenges. And in both cases, they have you flexing different muscles, right? Because with the combat map, it's like, okay, let's strip this down to just pure combat. And you have like a certain amount of rounds that you're doing, and you may just want to survive them, but if you're doing those combat match, chances are you want to break records. And so you're given like the top three spots that you could try to overcome. And the idea is, right, you want to like survive those rounds, sure, but you want to like do that as perfectly as you can, or just like, if not perfect, just very well. And then you, like, if you're feeling competitive, it's like you could break the records that are there, and then kind of like also stack that up against like the leaderboards that they have up. Um, yeah, so it's like pretty cool. Like, I have like, well, okay, so I have like Batman Arkham City, like the Game of the Year edition, but I also have Return to Arkham, so it's like Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and I think that includes all the DLC for all of that. But in any case, right, like with said DLC, they have some like different maps among other things. Um, and the Iceberg Lounge to me was like a really cool one because like so it's an endurance round, like a survival round sort of setup, right? And also, you can play as different characters during those like challenges because you can play as Batman, but you could also play as Catwoman or Nightwing or Robin, and each of them function a little differently. Because Batman he has all of his gadgets and all the good stuff. Um, Nightwing has his batons. Robin has the staff. A Catwoman has like kind of like the whip and all that. And you can unlock different skins, and they all function and flow a little differently. But they also have like their core the same, so you can like experiment with those. So back to the Iceberg Lounge, I think that's really cool because like I remember like I think like it's been a while, so I'm trying to remember like my top score, or like the for like. Well, I'm not gonna remember the top score, but I can remember where around the combo multiplier I got at. It was somewhere around like a little over 300. Like I think it was like 311 or something crazy like that. And I got that with Nightwing because I gotten really used to using that character, and Nightwing's one of my favorite characters. Not just in the game, just like in general for Batman. Um, so yeah, I was like really proud of that though, because like it got crazy because the way it's set up, right? Uh, you you have like the basic characters, and you don't have to worry about like them having anything weird. You can just like clobber them and like move. So if you're really good, you can get through all of the basic people who are coming at you with the fists and the pipes and the bats and all that. And you can stop them from picking up things like the batons and all that. But then there is a point if you're surviving long enough where you start to get different opponents come in, right? You'll start to have ones that like might have armor, and so like if you're not careful, basic attacks won't work. You have to like stun them and just keep on hitting them, right? You might have people that come at you with the blade, people that come at you with the baton, people that have the shields, and so you have to strategize, and it's real easy to like get thrown off that and break your combo. But I was able to survive a while, and again, like I think it was something like 311. Um, for me, and that was like the highest I ever got from like the combos. It got crazy, and I've gotten some pretty high ones, since. But like that was the highest. I was proud of that. Still am. Um, okay, so I guess like before closing out some things, um, there's not a, like sound is something that's inherently mathematical. Music is an extension of that, right? We're dealing with sound used to convey something about the environment, the characters, to invoke emotions. There's math and how it's constructed, right? Math and the value, math and how it blends into the environment or how it jumps out at you. Math in its very structure, and I think that's cool. And for voice acting, given that we're dealing with sound, again, something that's inherently mathematical. But it's not just the fact that it's sound, right? It's like everything else that's going on with it. Because you're dealing with your breathing, and all that good stuff. You're dealing with your timing. And we had like a phenomenal voice cast, like a lot of veterans from like Batman the animated series. So it's just like it's incredible. And with Arkham City, I just like it because like it takes what worked about Arkham Asylum and it expands it, right? Because with Arkham Asylum, I feel like it was a very strong start to the Arkham series. Um, and then Arkham City comes along. It's like, well, what if we add more intricacies to the combat system? What if we added more to the exploration? What if we added more to the stealth? What if we added more just in general to the scale and scope? And what if we took the story that you dug before and we just added to it, right? What if we expanded the cast? What if we brought back your favorites? What if we just made it the most awesome Batman game ever? And for the record, I think it is. And I dig it. So for me, I very much enjoyed Arkham Asylum. Then Arkham City came along. That became my favorite. I dig that even more because, again, it's like it extends from the greatness of Arkham Asylum and it just expands that. Arkham Origins was actually really decent. It didn't set the world ablaze because I feel like Arkham City sets the bar too high. Well, not too high, but it sets it very high. And with Origins, it was made by a different studio, so they probably didn't want to rock the boat too much. But it definitely has a lot to offer. And if you haven't played that, you should just to see. I mean, if you don't, it's whatever. But like, I did like it. Arkham Knight. Oof, 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 oof. Okay, first and foremost, what they were doing with Arkham Knight is like, okay, it's not Jason Todd. You know, this isn't a stand-in for Red Hood. It's like, yeah, okay, everyone knew that was false, and so I didn't like how they couldn't just like, because you don't have to admit it, fine, but don't deny it. You could have just said nothing. Um, but more than that, my thing is like they introduced like the whole tank thing in that, and it's like okay, fine, this is kind of cool, and then it became not cool very quickly because it was clunky, and anything interesting about it kind of got diminished because they just kept on using it, and they had the tank challenges, and it was really really obnoxious. I also didn't like the whole way they incorporated Joker into that story because it's not really Joker, but it's like okay, so I don't want to go too far on that because I do think like Arkham Knight is actually a decent game. It's just not a great game because it has too much holding it back. Like the idea is like okay, it's supposed to be a good story and be fun, and I don't think it nailed the story or the gameplay for that. But it's like it wasn't the worst thing ever, right? Like it was still a strong game, just like not as strong as the games that came before it. And I do think Batman Arkham City is the strongest of the Arkham bunch. Also, those are the four main installments. There are also like handheld and mobile games. There's in animated adaptation or continuation, whatever you want to call it. Also, some comic tie-ins. It's bigger than you might think. In any case, Batman Arkham City is an excellent game. I dig it. I dig it hard. If you haven't played it, you should. It is the best Batman game I've ever played, and that's saying something because I thought Arkham Asylum was really great too. And Arkham City is just like that on a larger scale, and just adding this just even more greatness. In any case, I'll see you in the future.